This is mugwort. I have an awful lot of it here in certain areas of the farm. I don't know why. It's not eaten by anything. It's extremely pungent, and animals typically don't like to eat it. And so it goes wild. I also think it's spread rhizomally. Anyway, here's my point. In here, I've got these areas where they are marching through, where they're knocking it down. That's great. The other areas, I don't. I could come out here and mow this, but I don't think it's worth it, and I don't have a tractor to do it anyway. So what I'll do this year is I'll try to get the animals over here to mess this up. I'll put the water in the middle of this. I'll put the mineral feeder in the middle of this. And what that does is it knocks down this mugwort. This mugwort becomes organic matter. It gets into the soil. The cattle disturb it with their hooves, with their manure, just with their biota that's on their body. And we make this area more conducive to the plants that we want. Right now, there's a deficit for the plants that we want here. It's not bad that the mugwort's here. It's part of the cycle. It's transforming this. It's one of the things that can thrive here. We just don't like it because it's not the best thing for our cattle to eat. So disturbance is going to bring this back. Now, ideally, it would be great to mow this right about now too and really knock it back, because that also would accomplish our goal of putting organic matter on the ground, right? And making it more conducive to the grasses that we want. So I've mentioned this a million times before. The most important part of disturbance is rest. So if we hit this hard, if we mow this, if we let the animals sleep here for a few days, the best thing to do would be let it rest for a long time. And by disturbance, I mean if we can see soil. That's the kind of disturbance I'm talking about. If we're seeing soil, we really need to give it a year off ideally. And you can learn more about that in my video about how to deal with severe disturbances. So, well, gotta go, the cattle are coming. Jason Detzel, Diamond Hills Farm, 2021 grazing season. I talked about knocking down some of this mugwort yesterday, and look what happened. Now, we didn't get it all, that's for sure, but that's okay. But man, did we make some impact over here. Check this out. Really knocked it back. Now, what's gonna happen here next year? Probably the mugwort's gonna come back, but at least we put a disturbance on it. We added organic matter to this area. We disturbed it, we messed it up. So we are making the area more conducive for the plants that we want to grow here by changing the pH, by adding organic matter, by creating disturbance, and by hurting the mugwort, the stuff we don't want out here. So another thing that I will do sometimes is make lanes in these kind of areas to drive them through on purpose, to do just this type of impact. This is great. I love this. This is pretty perfect for what I want. I would even consider this overused for any part of pasture. Again, the most important thing is rest when you have a disturbance in nature. So if this rests, it should come back just great. Okay, I just want to show you real quick where I had the water and the middle feeder for 2 days out here. We're still working through these paddocks, trying to knock them down. If you take a quick look, obviously still you can see the line there where they haven't grazed. You can see the cattle have moved over there now. This is a back fence over here. Anyway, they're not coming back over here because they're blocked out, but the water and the minerals are here. We put a real hurting on this. We added organic matter. We disturbed the soil. We killed a lot of the plants that we don't really want to see here. We made a great impact. So to recover, what we need to do is let this rest. So when I come back here in about 40 days or so, I'm not going to put the water in the middle feeder here. I'll put it up this way a little bit and try to knock some of these back. And ideally what we'll have is, through the confluence of greater nutrition, through disturbance, and through space, we're gonna have the kind of plants that we want growing here instead of all this mugwort and goldenrod which you currently see. So that's a good job, not too disturbed. I don't wanna see a huge mud pile there. Sometimes it's not possible if it's raining a lot though. Let's talk about choices. Hey, it's Jason Detzel, Diamond Hills Farm, 2021 grazing season. It's been a crazy year for growing forage. This is my pasture, and if you can see it, the orchard grass is up over my waist. It's headed out. It's not the most palatable thing for the cattle, I know that. And we've only covered about half the farm at this point. So my goal is to try to knock some of this down. Problem is, it's not really gonna be possible. So let's talk about choices. Here are my choices. I can continue to graze this as it is. The orchard grass is certainly not vegetative at this point, which means it's not the ideal forage for them. But this is a polyculture. This isn't one type of plant. This is planted into several different types. And you can see the diversity out here. There's forbs, there's legumes, there's a lot of orchard grass. There's, wow, some really tall bird's foot trefoils, all kinds of stuff out here. So my options are either keep grazing, come out here and make hay, I guess would be the other option, or the other option would be to come out here and mow. I don't want to do that. I don't even own a tractor that could do that. It would take me 10 years with my little deck. So I'm going to let it go. These animals are going to eat this forage. They'll eat what they need. I can't tell them what they need. They know better than I do. So my job is to give them a polyculture of forbs and legumes and grasses and let them decide. And then I can learn from what they pick and choose. So my point is, I'm not gonna be able to make up this lost time because the production season's been too great. I'd rather not burn the diesel and mow this. I'd rather just let them pick and choose what they want to eat because they know what's nutritious. And then once we finish up with this pasture, I'll send a picture of what it looks like after. I'm planning to do 2 days in here. We're just trying to knock it back a little bit, not trying to consume a lot of it. And I'm hoping some of that orchard grass gets knocked down. It's sequential. Orchard grass always comes first. So let's take a look at this pasture and what the cattle are eating right now. They're eating canary reed grasses. They don't see very often. It's still very young. So let's take a look at that real quick, what it looks like. Yesterday we talked about disturbance. We're in this new pasture where I had to talk about making some choices here because the grass was so high. I cannot keep up with this year. It is an extraordinary year. Let's look at what the pasture looks like after 1 day. It's about a 4-acre pasture, 40 something cattle. You can see the impact of it here. You can see the line, where the line is, where they haven't crossed and touched it. So look at how this is disturbed. It's tall, so a lot of it is really knocked down on the ground. We got some weeds here. What we're seeing is a lot of impact, and that's exactly what I wanted to see. Now, did all of this turn into edible forage? Heck no. A lot of it's knocked down, a lot of it's manured, a lot of it's peed on, but these cattle look great. Oh my gosh, are they getting slick now because we're letting them choose what they want to eat. And, you know, we're not going to have the perfect impact. So let's walk out here. You know, we get out of the preferred grasses and we get into that goldenrod. They're not going to touch it. But if you look, you know, here's a manured area in that goldenrod. Here's some disturbance where they walked through it. You know, they're making paths. Any trampled forage is just as good as forage going through the animal. Any trampled or manure forage is just as good as it going through the animal. So we look at this reed canary grass out here. They've eaten just the tops of it. It's pretty amazing. And they've moved on. That's the disturbance we wanted. We're gonna do 2 days in here because I want to kind of knock it back a little bit further. There's plenty to eat, shouldn't be a problem. They'll walk through these areas more, disturb them more. We're gonna bring more biota here, more bacteria, more birds, more bugs, more everything are gonna live off the backs of these cows, and that's exactly what we want. So anyway, here's where they were sleeping, I could see last night, where like they laid down in all these little spots and just crushed this grass down. All this orchard grass. Orchard grass is great, but it's already headed out. We're cooked, man. It's June 1st. The orchard grass is done. That's not that weird. It's pretty typical, but you know, this year it's even more pronounced. Anyway, so don't be afraid to let your animals do the impact that you need, okay? Because forage that goes under the animal or gets pooped on is just as valuable later on because it turns into organic matter on the ground as forage that goes through that animal. So here we are after 2 days of grazing in this paddock. This was the reed canary grass I was telling you that the cattle aren't exposed to very often. It likes a wetter area, and this is a very wet area down here, and it's early in the season. You can see they've eaten the tops off all the reed canary grass. That's exactly what I want to happen. If this area stays wet as it typically does, that stuff's going to grow back great, and we're going to have another awesome forage experience out here. Now, many of you are going to say, wow, this forage is so high. I mean, you don't even know yet. If you look over here, you can see it's a good 3 or 4 feet high. It's up to my chest. That's true. Some of you want to get out here and mow this. Hey, that's okay. I don't have a tractor and I don't want to spend the diesel. So here's what I'm doing. I'm using the animals to let them pick whatever they want to eat out here. I've given them a huge salad bar, as Salating says. I've given them a whole bunch of resources to choose from. I let them decide. And as a corollary, the impact that they make on the plants that I don't want should begin transforming that area into something more conducive. So I could improve this faster if I was out here mowing, but it would cost me more money. My number one priority is putting weight on the animals, not on improving the pasture. So I give the animals a ton of space to choose what they want out of these paddocks. I don't care how long they get per se. There's new plants in succession growing all the time, and I let them make the nutritional decisions that they need to make to grow. I'm not forcing them to do anything except move every day. And I think they'd want to do that anyway. So we have really good usage out here. Less than 50-50. Like I said before, I'm trying to go 75% usage out here. I'm trying to knock it back this week. I'm trying to knock it back more than I typically would. Normally I'd be like 25% usage. Now I'm trying to up it as much as I can just to get the disturbance out here on this first run with this crazy weather we've had, you know, 90-degree days in May. So anyway, I'm letting the cattle decide what they want, and they have decided very much so that they want the early Timothy, they do not want the orchard grass, and they want the reed canary big time. Diamond Hills Farm 2021 messed up hair grazing season. I got to talk about something called differential reinforcement. There's a lot of cattle following me right now. I'm not calling them. I'm just out here to do a checkup on the field. Some of you may not know this, but in a previous life, I was a pediatric behaviorist. So I worked with people who had difficulty communicating their needs and wants verbally. And that's pretty similar to animals because they can't do that either. So there's an awful lot of stuff going on here that they're trying to tell me that's not verbal because obviously they can't speak. Anyway, why are these cattle following me now? Well, because they think I have a treat. Because usually when I come out here, I have a bucket. I show them that bucket. I do my call, my yip, 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 but I don't want them to hear that now. What we need to do is differentially reinforce that behavior. So I want them to follow me when I have a bucket, but I don't want them to follow me when I don't have a bucket. So how do you do that? Well, every time you want to move them, it's all about consistency. Every time you move them, you bring the bucket, you do the call. Every time you come out here that you're not moving them, you don't bring the bucket, you don't do the call, you let them follow you and just pretend like they're not even there because you're not going to reinforce that behavior. That's differential reinforcement. We're going to reinforce it. We're going to give them treats when they move, when they follow me, when I have that white bucket, when I'm making the noise. When I don't have the white bucket, when I'm not making the noise, I'm not going to reinforce them. I'm just going to ignore them and let them do their thing. They could follow me for 2 hours. They're not going to get any treats out of me. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to do much anything to them. Just kind of ignore them. So I'm going to finish my checkup out here. And I figured that to be fair it takes 3 times as many non-reinforcing events versus reinforcing events. So it's the casino syndrome. If I go to play the slots, I only win 1 every 4 times. That can really be powerful for me to keep pulling that. These cattle know that 1 in every 4 times they're going to get a treat. That's really powerful. They're going to continue to follow me. Okay. So I need to do more differential non-reinforcing events here. So look, that's what we're doing today. I don't have the bucket. I'm going to ignore them and I'm going to move on with my day. And they're going to eventually get the clue that they only get treats. They only should follow me when they see those stimuli, that white bucket and that clue. If you'd like to learn more about that, feel free to email me. I could talk about behaviorism and how it results or how it affects livestock and farming all day long. Have a good day, everybody. Keep on grazing.